Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction that will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilor Elliott. Here. Mayor Mott.
Here.
Councilor Ahmed Mercia. Here. Councilor Rita Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Aldo.
Here.
Councilor Mendoza.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Here.
9 present. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I would request a moment of silence with darkened chambers for Lillian Sullivan, a devoted and loving wife, mother, and grandmother. Also for Brendan Sullivan, a devoted and loving husband, father, grandfather, a very dedicated English teacher for 40 years at Lowell High School.
Thank you. And I know our former colleague, Brian Delaney, passed away. I'd made an announcement a few weeks ago that he was not doing well. Ask Rita Mercier
Yeah,
to
that was
comment.
my moment of silence for Brian J. Delaney, former 3-term city councilor, loving husband, father, grandfather. He'll be truly missed. Thank you.
Thank you. We could stand in a moment of silence and darken chambers in their memory. May they rest in peace. Before we begin the formal agenda this evening, we have a special proclamation. I'd ask Deirdre Murphy of the University of Massachusetts Lowell to come to the podium. This proclamation is in honor of National Physical Therapy Month. Whereas October is National Physical Therapy Month, it began in 1981 as National Physical Therapy Week. And since 1992, the American Physical Therapy Association has celebrated National Physical Therapy Month in October. Whereas physical therapists are healthcare professionals who diagnose and treat individuals of all ages, from newborns to the elderly, who have medical problems or other health-related conditions that limit their abilities to move and physically perform activities in their daily lives. Physical therapists examine each individual, develop a plan of care using treatment techniques to promote the ability to move, reduce pain, restore function, and prevent disability. Physical therapists also work with individuals to prevent the loss of mobility by developing fitness and wellness-oriented programs for healthier and more active lifestyles. And whereas the University of Massachusetts Lowell Physical Therapy Program is educating future physical therapists to deliver health care which is safer, more effective, and efficient, and the highest quality for patient care in the Merrimack Valley. And physical therapists are committed to the quality of health care, for which is best met through partnerships between patients, providers, consumers, and healthcare plans. Now, therefore, I, William Martin, Mayor of the City of Lowell, do proclaim the month of October as National Physical Therapy Month in the City of Lowell, and urge all citizens to recognize the important contribution of the physical therapists in our community for their fitness and health, and ask in particular that we recognize the program at the University of Massachusetts Lowell. Professor Murphy, thank you for being here this evening.
Community and the Merrimack Valley community of partnerships that hopefully encourage healthier and active lifestyles. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, proceeding on to the formal part of the agenda, the first item is approval of the minutes of the October 2nd meeting. Motion to approve by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Under the city manager's portion of the agenda, we have several communications from the manager in response to council motions and requests. Any questions about those items? Councilor Rita Mercier.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In our packet, we got a communication regarding the LTC board appointees, and it appears that the city manager put in his 6 choices as it said, 6 by the city council, 6 by the city manager, and 2 by the school committee. And we do see that the city manager has chosen his 6 people. Some came from the slots that the city council would have chosen. And I'm just wondering now, who is it that the city council chooses? Is it the city council, we have input, or is it just through you, the mayor, that you make the choices? So that's just a question that I had.
Councilor, my understanding, and I'd have to double check with the charter of LTC, but I believe it's a council appointment, which is a little unusual because I don't think we have any other appointments that come from this body. We confirm the manager's appointments, but no direct appointments. But I believe that is the case, and once these manager appointments take effect, then we're going to have to figure out a way to come up with appointees of our own. But I will confirm that for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. I know that it doesn't warrant city council approval of who the city manager chooses. That's not up to us to say that. But that's the question that I had.
And
Thank you.
I do think the manager said his appointments are effective November 1st, so that will free up potentially some council appointments.
And I know
after
that it said school committee, and it just had one name here, and it said one vacancy, but they failed to mention that Jackie Doherty is on the board, and she's a school committee person, so.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't know
not
if
sure
that
that's
one-
accurate with respect to the school committee.
Okay.
I think the school committee is either in the process of appointing a second person or already has done that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We all received this communication in a packet about the conditions on Mount Hope Street in Pawtuckaville, and the letter indicates that someone is running a appliance and junk cars and so forth. I will hand this letter to the city manager, and they can address this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Other items under the communications from the city manager, Councilor Armin Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge the fact that we did receive in our package an update report on the JAM plan and the acre plan, and I do have a motion on the agenda relating to the acre plan that I will take up later that will supplement, or at least a report will be requested of me that should supplement this acre plan update. So that I want to thank the administration for providing that information. However, there's some more information that I'm going to be requesting when we get to my motion.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor. Other items under the manager's responses, Councilor Mendonça.
Again, regarding the item about the appointments to the Lowell Telecommunications, would it behoove us to refer this to the Comcast Cable TV subcommittees for taking further action on determining how we're going to get our appointees for that?
I think that's certainly in order.
I'll make the motion.
Motion to refer that item to the Cable TV Subcommittee by Councilor Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? That matter will be referred to the Council Subcommittee on Cable TV. Other items from the communications from the city manager. Okay, motion to accept the communications placed on file by Councilor Rita Mercier, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The communications are accepted, placed on file. Next item under the city manager's portion of the agenda, we have a request for out-of-state travel from the police department. Attached is a request from Ken LaValle, Superintendent of Police, seeking reimbursement for out-of-state travel for Acting Deputy Superintendent DeMora, who traveled to the FBI Leader Command Institute for Law Enforcement Executives in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, September 10 through 14, 2007. The funds for this request will come from the Law Enforcement Trust Fund. If you have any questions, please let me know. Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. It's the wish of the council. Motion approved by Counselor Broderick, seconded by Counselor Elliott. Roll call.
Counselor Elliott,
Yes.
Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Counselor Arman Mercia,
Yes.
Counselor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo.
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
Counselor Caulfield.
Yes.
Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the request is approved. The next item is an order pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 13-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days, whereas the City of Lowell desires to make temporary rules regulating traffic under actual conditions for a period of 60 days, and whereas Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, Section 13-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, authorizes the City Council to make temporary rules for a period not to exceed 60 days. Now, therefore, it is ordered, adjudged, and decreed by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: effective October 17 and continuing for a period of 60 days thereafter, the following temporary regulations shall be implemented. Left turns restricted is hereby implemented by deleting the following: Central Street north into Middlesex Street. Section 13-116, one-way streets designated is hereby amended by deleting Middlesex Street from Central Street westerly to the Lord Overpass. There was also a communication in the packet explaining the impact of these changes, which relate to making Middlesex Street a two-way street. Second reading by title, an order pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 13-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Questions or comments on this item? Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the acting city manager. Mr. Coggins, does this have to do with the fact that the garage will be opening within this time frame, or is it actually a little outside this time frame, if we're doing just a 60-day trial right now?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're still looking at the garage opening by the end of December. The idea is that there will be some period of time for people to get used to now the
Okay.
change back to two-way traffic before we're actually generating traffic to the garage.
Okay.
We had previously looked at doing it sooner, but there was some
Right.
additional utility work to be done on Middlesex Street that delayed it a little bit, but we are prepared to go now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Mendonça.
Is that first part of this correct? Central Street north to Middlesex? I didn't know that was prohibited. I mean, people have been doing that. I'm just wondering if there's a,
I think it's the way it's.
it says Central Street turning left turns onto Middlesex Street, right?
Right. I think
You
that,
can't turn left from Central onto Middlesex Street.
I think
Okay.
that is prohibited now.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, I guess people have been doing it anyway.
But now you'll be all right.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion on this item? Roll call.
Counselor Elliott,
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo.
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
Counselor Caulfield.
Yes.
Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the order is approved. Next item is a vote authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to apply for, accept, and expend a grant from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs in an additional amount up to $2,898 for the continued employment of staff, as well as funding various supplies, furnishings, and equipment for use by the Council on Aging. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor of waiving the first full reading say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the first full reading is waived. Second reading by title, a vote authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to apply for, accept, and expend a grant from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs in an additional amount of up to $2,898 for the continued employment of staff, as well as funding of various supplies, furnishings, and equipment for use by the Council on Aging. Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This seems like there was $91,262. It was increased by $2,898. Could we have a breakdown as to how many people are hired under this money and how much they receive and how much is left over, if any, for furniture and fixtures? could we, furnishings and equipment or whatever, could we have a breakdown from the director as to, you know, how are they using this money? I know it's being used wisely, but I want to know how many people does that entail, the money pays for? How much is left over, if any, for fixtures or furniture or whatever? That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion on this item? Okay. Roll call.
Counselor Elliott,
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo.
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
Counselor Caulfield.
Yes.
Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
9
9 yeas. The vote is approved. Next item is a communication from the city manager. Dear Mayor Martin, members of the city council, pursuant to the authority specified in the code of the city of Lowell, section 2-76, it is with pleasure I am reappointing William Sheehan, 201 Avon Street, Lowell, Mass. 01854, for a term to the Council on Aging. Term expires May 11, 2010, or such time thereafter until a successor is appointed and qualified. Confirmation by the City Council is requested for this reappointment and is hereby requested. Be happy to answer any inquiry you may have concerning this reappointment. Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm certainly pleased that the manager saw fit to reappoint Billy Sheehan, because he has done a tremendous job with our seniors. And having said that, I fail to say that this money of the previous vote for $94,000, increasing it, $91,000, increasing it by 2, that is coming from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs, which incidentally, on Sunday is their Elder Affairs Walk. So this money that we're generating and raising comes back to the city, as you can see by the previous vote. So I'd like to tie that all in together. Our seniors are very important, and so if anybody wants to contribute further for our elder service of the Merrimack Valley, the money does come back to our seniors, and I wanted to thank those that would contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion on this appointment? Roll call.
Counselor Elliott,
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo.
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
Counselor Caulfield.
Yes.
Counselor Donahue.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the appointment is confirmed. Any subcommittee reports this evening? Councilor Rita Mercia?
Mr. Mayor, since there are no subcommittee reports, if I could suspend the rules and just bring in a letter that requested some assistance at 2 parks in the city. I got the letter and a petition Saturday in the mail, and I had no chance to make a subcommittee meeting, but it's a request to fix the Judge Flanagan Parks and the basketball court. So if I could suspend the rules to...
Motion to suspend the rules to consider these 2 petitions. Councilor Rita Mercia. Second by Councilor Arman Mercia. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The rules are suspended. Councilor Rita Mercia.
And with this petition and this letter that came in the mail to my home on Saturday, I would just like to say that I'd like to refer this letter to a Parks and Recreation subcommittee. And having said that, they are requesting that we meet and take this on the road and have this a roving subcommittee meeting at the Judge Flanagan project, Mr. Clerk. So if we could, when we come time to address this issue through a subcommittee meeting, I'd like to take it there to the residents who want an upgrade at the Mulligan Park. There's a park there, Mulligan Park, and there's a little another park around the corner on Doan Street, as well as the basketball court. So I would request that Mark Young be in attendance, because wastewater did have to address a problem down there where they ripped up the basketball court. So if I could notify Tom Belgard, the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation, along with our city manager, and the Judge Flanagan housing tenants by Rosalie Willie Blanco. She would like to, this is her request as well, along with the tenants, and I'm sure that they can't all come down here, but we could go down to them. So through this motion, I'm just requesting that somewhere down the road, I'm going to request a subcommittee meeting to meet with these concerns. Thank
Okay.
you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks.
Motion to refer those items to the Parks and Recreation
Yes.
Subcommittee by Councilor Rita Mercia, second by Councilor Armin Mercia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matters are referred to the subcommittee. Councilor,
you.
Okay. No other subcommittee reports. That'll bring us to the petitions. The first petition is from the Friends of Jack's Bridge, also known as the University Ave Bridge, concerning saving the bridge. There's a petition that's been submitted. I believe somebody wishes to speak on this. Just have your name and address for the record, sir.
Hello, my name is Steve Lindsay, and I'm down here from Keene, New Hampshire. And last week I submitted a petition from last year during Jack Kerouac Week, and this week I got another petition from this week's participants. It's in a scroll form. I taped it together like the Kerouac writings down at the Park Service Visitor Center. This is it right here.
Oh, geez, that's cute.
It's kind of a gimmick, but it kind of points out that people are still interested in the historic value of this bridge. Let me get a little comfortable here because I'm a little taller than this device here. You may have read the paper yesterday in the Sun. I'm the fella that was on the bridge in that striped shirt. And we had a little rally and petition gathering out there just as we did the previous 2 days. I attended many of the Kerouac events, and I don't believe there were any, not one negative word against the bridge amongst all those people who were patronizing the restaurants and taking part in the tours. The reason I'm interested in this bridge is its historic value, Your Honor. It's one of the oldest surviving pin-connected deck truss bridges, not just in this state, not just in this country, but in the world, and I'm just curious why there isn't more interest in saving this structure. There are a number of other historic bridges across the country. In this part of the country, we saw what Shelburne Falls did when they had a unused bridge. It was this old trolley bridge up there, and I wouldn't recommend going up there right now because they have so many tourists up there that it's really not enjoyable. But it has that single tourist attraction, that singular piece of heritage tourism has reinvigorated both Shelburne Falls and Buckport across the river. Down in Boston, there was the Northern Avenue Bridge, a similar sized bridge to what you have, and there was a fierce struggle to preserve that bridge, and it makes the waterfront pedestrian friendly. It gives people access to the waterfront. So does your bridge here, this University Avenue Bridge, the bridge that I call Jack's Bridge. I wish my voice projected a little better because I have to lean over like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. What I'd like to see is a reconsideration for demolishing this bridge. The new bridge is going to be built, and I'd like to see a group of leading citizens study the idea of renovating this bridge. It is a piece of recognized history. It's in the civil engineering record. I'd like to see what we could do with this structure. This just in this afternoon, I didn't have time to let the city know about this ahead of time, but this is up on the National Trust website. Do you mind if I hand it over the railing here?
Sure.
There's enough copies for everybody, but
Sure.
the National Trust is now aware of our effort here and I'm a long-time historic preservationist and see the merit of the struggle to reconsider, see the problem with the University Avenue Bridge is it's been sort of relegated. It's been defined as a piece of scrap metal and unworthy of our veneration, and just as many of the closed parish Catholic churches have been. But that's part of your history, but it's also part of my history, and that's why I'm coming down here and taking up your time tonight, because that's our nation's history. There's been some concern about who would pay for the painting and maintenance of a bridge dedicated to pedestrians, a new public space that would be created over one of the most beautiful sections of the Merrimack, and I include that part of the Merrimack that goes up into my state. So I think we ought to look and redefine this bridge as a challenge instead of as a liability, as a possibility. We can do what Shelburne Falls does. Lowell's been trying for years with its trolleys and the boot mill and the Massachusetts mill to tie in with the heritage tourism, which is now getting bigger and bigger as people move in the suburbs. They want authenticity in their lives, and they'll come home from their cubicles. They don't want to take their kids to Disney World anymore. They want to come down and see where the mill girls walked, but they also want to come down and see where Jack Kerouac walked. So I guess that's what I have to say. If we could possibly relook at the bridge again, and if I could hand this petition, and I'll gladly answer questions from people who might be skeptics or are dead sure of the bridge has got to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. The clerk will take the petition. The scroll. Councilor Armin Mercia.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I think it's a good idea to try to save this bridge as a pedestrian bridge that would benefit the university more than it would benefit anybody else. And maybe a petition like this should probably go to the university to see if they'd be interested in taking ownership of this bridge for that purpose. But I have to make a couple of corrections. I read this preservation memo, and it's called the Jack Kerouac Bridge in Lowell. There is no Jack Kerouac Bridge in Lowell, and this bridge is the Textile Memorial Bridge. That's its official name, that's how it was dedicated, and that's what it is today. It is not a Jack Kerouac Bridge. And so when you do your petition, I would hope that you would make that correction. You may want to call it the Jack Kerouac Bridge, and that would take another different tone in terms of how you do that. Let's not forget that this was a textile memorial bridge. That's how it was dedicated, and that's what it is today. Now, Jack Kerouac was a literary giant. He's recognized throughout the world and also in Lowell. In fact, in Lowell, we have a park named after Jack Kerouac. But I don't want people to assume that this council took an action that changed that name from the Textile Memorial Bridge to Jack Kerouac Bridge. It is not a Jack Kerouac Bridge. And so far as him traveling across the bridge to Pawtuckaville, he also crossed the bridge on Aiken Street to Centerville, also crossed the bridge on Bridge Street to Centerville. And so this was not the only bridge that Jack Kerouac traveled. There were a number of other bridges in the city of Lowell that went over canals that he traveled over. I think it's a great idea to see if we could possibly make that bridge a walkway for the university in some form. I don't know if that makes sense as it relates to how we're going to build a new bridge and hopefully cantilever it so that it meets up at the VFW highway. I don't know what that does to the bridge that we're talking about. So I don't know where this is to go, but wherever it goes, I would hope that whoever does the writing of it makes mention of the fact that we are talking about the Textile Memorial Bridge and not the Jack Kerouac Bridge, because it is not the Jack Kerouac Bridge. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Other questions or comments on this petition?
I don't know where it's to go.
I mean, I would suggest this matter be referred to the city manager for
So
report and recommendation. We're at the beginning here. There's a long permitting process to go here with both the new bridge and what's going to happen with this bridge. I'm sure the National Park is going to weigh in heavily on what they want the design to be, whether they want two bridges or one bridge, and what the design of those is going to look like. So, I think we're all very clear we want the new bridge.
Absolutely.
But there is, we're at the beginning of the process here, not the end of the process. So, the motion
I would
to
make the motion, we refer to the city manager, and that the manager contact the state as it relates to their plans on the new bridge and how this would affect it if there's an attempt to save it.
So moved by Councilor Armin Mercia, second by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Textile Memorial Bridge has served its people well for well over 100 years. It's old and it's tired. And Mass Highway is going to construct a new bridge. And I don't know who would come forward with the cost of refurbishing this bridge. I know the city of Lowell has a lot of things on its plate. Sidewalks, roads, infrastructure, the CSO, et cetera. And I attended a meeting at 1 Lancet Mills probably 3 weeks ago. Mass Highway indicated they're going to build a new bridge, and when that's completed, this bridge will be demolished. I don't know where you think the money's going to come from to refurbish this bridge. You think it's going to come from the city of Lowell, or?
We need to explore the options. We can't just give up right away and consign it to oblivion. We need to look into the options just as they did in Boston with the Northern Avenue Bridge. The people in Northfield, Massachusetts are trying to save their Shell Bridge. This is part of our engineering heritage. There's a small town below my city in New Hampshire, and they have 4 covered bridges, and they found federal and state monies, and they've been able to save four covered bridges. This is a small town, smaller than in population than one of your blocks down here. Where there's a will and a way, we need to have the imagination and we need the breathing time to consider our options. If we just walk away from it, this is your heritage as well as my heritage. But if you go ahead and just slam these I-beam bridges across everywhere, you take away from the core historic value of this wonderful city. We have a mill city in New Hampshire called Manchester, the Great Amoskeag Mill Development. But in the 50s and 60s, they filled in all the canals, all the bridges were replaced. They've got a lot of prosperity, but it doesn't have nearly the history that you have, and I can't see at this vantage point squandering what you have over other similar cities along the Merrimack.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on this item? All right, so the motion on the floor is to refer the matter to the city manager for report and recommendation. All those in favor of that motion say aye. Any opposed? The matter will be referred to the city manager for report and recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we have another petition from Mary Ann and Joseph Corcoran, 378 Parker Street, requesting to address the council concerning traffic concerns at Parker Street. Is there anybody here to speak on this item? Okay, motion to refer this matter to the manager and traffic engineer for report and recommendation by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Matter will be referred to the manager and the traffic engineer. Under the public hearings, the first item is an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 13 thereof, entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. This is the quarterly traffic ordinance. Is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor? We'll open the public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance. Anybody wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition, hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council? Motion to approve by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Caulfield. Roll call.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the ordinance is approved. The next item is an order of taking and acceptance of Sharon Road Extension and Parent Way in order to take by eminent domain and fee a certain parcel of land in the city of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of Sharon Road Extension and Parent Way and other municipal purposes associated therewith. We'll open the public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor of this item. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of this order of taking? Anybody wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition, hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. This matter gets referred to the city clerk and is held for 1 week and then comes back for vote at next week's meeting. Motion is so referred by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter will be referred to the city clerk and held for 1 week. Next public hearing, we have for National Grid, a pole location in Rogers Street. Anybody here wishing to speak in favor of this item? Anyone here from National Grid? Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Motion to recess for 1 week by Councilor Donahue, second by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Matter will be recessed for 1 week. Next public hearing is for conduit in Middlesex Street, petitioned by Verizon. Anybody here? We'll open the public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Frazier, right-of-way manager, 28 Diana Lane in Draycott for Verizon. And I'm here before you this evening for the placement of approximately 22 feet of underground conduit from an existing manhole located at Middlesex Street to service 155 Middlesex.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else in favor of this petition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition, hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council?
Refer to the wire
Motion to
inspector.
refer to the wire inspector by Councilor Rita Mercia, seconded by Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to the wire inspector. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the motions. The first motion this evening is by Councilor Elliott. The City Council requests the city manager meet with the management directors of the Middlesex Shelter to discuss issues relative to the courtyard. Second by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Elliott. We have people registered to speak.
Karen Bell, 80 Middlesex Street.
Good evening. I'd like to thank Councilor Elliott for his courage in bringing this before the council. I've spoken to you often, or come before the council and thanked the council itself for its courage that it's had in many instances, many things that you have done over the years. You made a wonderful, bold step, and I know many of you are probably hiding a little bit and thinking, oh, we made this bold step to have this parking garage. You have a parking garage that cost millions of dollars. You made that bold step, and now you have to make another bold step. And the success of the garage is going to be directly affected by the success of the neighborhood, and vice versa. We have to stop allowing the neighborhood and the city itself to be held hostage to the totally unacceptable actions and behaviors of many indolent people who populate the area in the shelter and around. I ran into City Manager Johnson at Paul Sullivan's wake, and he reminded me of the walks that we used to take around the jam area with the Shanahans and many of the other businesses, the Garnicks and so on. Well, all those businesses are still there. They are successful, and they are successful in spite of what is going on in that neighborhood. But that is in spite of, and I think it's time that we realize there are not going to be necessarily a lot of people who want to invest in that neighborhood and take and have the courage to take the shelter on as people like myself and the Shanahans and others have been doing for years. It's time that the council did take a bold step, another bold step, and bring the shelter to the point where it is not a detriment to the neighborhood. When I worked on the task force with Brian Martin, the shelter task force, we addressed the shelter and the management of the shelter and put into effect, we thought, any number of actions that would stop the shelter from being a detriment. One of those things was to make it a dry shelter. We thought that would help. Well, the shelter is not dry. You will find in the courtyard of the shelter any number of people who are visibly drinking. The other steps that we asked to have brought about have been totally ignored. If you walk down around that area, you'll find that there are police who don't even want to be around the area because of the actions. There are neighbors in the area, residents in Jackson Street, who have to wake up in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, to shout at obscenities and look down from their windows and see sights that you really would not want to see at all. This is unacceptable. And I think that the shelter can exist. It can exist, and it can exist and have nobody know about it. If you go to Cambridge and see the shelter and how it is run in Cambridge, and I visited 15 different shelters around Massachusetts when we sat on that task force. And we sat on the task force for years. So it wasn't just a weekend thing. I spent hours and hours. We visited these shelters, and they work. But when you have a shelter that serves thousands of meals to people, not just from Lowell, but from all over, and allow them to behave, these people to behave in terrible ways, it is very important if you want to see the economic development of this area, and you want to see 900 cars parked in that garage, and you want to see business thriving. It is very important to make sure that not just some Band-Aid is slapped on, as it turns out this task force that I was on and spent years on was. Anybody can rip that Band-Aid off and the sore festers again. We have to do something permanent to make sure that this whole area can prosper. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think there are any other speakers on this. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I filed this motion after receiving a number of complaints, quite frankly, from residents in the neighborhood, and having spoke in the past to businesses in the neighborhood. And it's tomorrow night. Jambra has a meeting, businesses in the neighborhood, to address a number of concerns. That one being the shelter. The city manager, I did contact him last week, and he sent Public Works up to the far end of Jackson Street because there was a makeshift shelter that was existing up there. But my concerns are clearly those that Karen Bell spoke of. We are investing millions in a parking garage. We're looking to develop millions of dollars of real estate, commercial, residential, to improve that area. Commercial to help offset residential property taxes, to bring businesses in the city. We just received the report regarding the JAM plan that we put in place in 2000. We're looking to invest $572 million in that area. There's already been a total private investment of $70 million. We can't have activity that's taking place in that particular neighborhood and expect businesses to come and relocate. I've spoken to residents in that neighborhood that have invested in the condos that are being developed. They're concerned, they're worried, and quite frankly, they're afraid to go out at night based upon activity emanating from either the shelter or the courtyard. Now, my understanding is that the courtyard is not owned by the shelter, but it's leased. That being said, we've got to address and put in place some plan, something to improve the conditions and change the perception that exists, I believe, with the location of the shelter. I understand that, and Karen mentioned it, there are communities where the shelter can coexist in business sections, whether it's Pine Street or any number of those businesses that coexist with the shelter. But I think if you ask anyone on the street, concerns they would have in that particular neighborhood, and I think they would link it to the shelter, right, wrong, or indifferent. So my motion is to have the manager meet with the board of directors or the executive director to figure out a way to bring some civility, if you will, or to bring some sense of, do something in the area, quite frankly. So that's the motion. I don't want to, I think Karen Bell said it pretty well. We've taken bold steps in that neighborhood, and if we don't do something to work with the shelter, then we're not going to succeed, in my opinion. I've spoken to a few police officers also, and they say that a fair amount of crime can be linked back to the shelter. So I don't know what the plan, I don't know what we can do, but we have to do something. And the motion is to work with the shelter because, we have to do something. There's also a school, right, several blocks away. So that's the motion, and I look forward to, a reporter participating or attending some meeting to bring some direction to the operation of that shelter in conjunction with the city. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a great motion. I think we ought to have the manager include the chief also, Chief LaValle. I think there's a lot more issues than just the shelter down in that area. There's all kinds of other activity. It's been going on for years. And Ms. Bell was correct. These aren't Lowell citizens that are sleeping in the bushes at South Common and pouring in and out of the shelters. People are coming here for a reason. It's been an easy place for them to exist between check cashing and other activities that go on over there. And I think it's if we are looking to spend $500 million over there, or hopefully have invested $500 million, we have to make sure it's going to be a clean, safe place for people, or else it's going to be for naught. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Milanazzo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too think it's a good motion. It's a timely motion. I, for one, would like to be interested. I'm interested in how much CDBG dollars, if any, we actually support the shelter. I'm surprised to hear that it's no longer a dry shelter, and that in itself would concern me. And I think by getting a report as to how much we actually do contribute to the CDBG program, and do we have performance measures to make sure that the programs that we're funding are being adhered to. So I like that part of the report as well.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield and Councilor Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Approximately 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I received an email with the same complaint, and I gave that email to Andy Sheehan, and he investigated that. And so I brought that forward, and I think the same person that's complaining again tonight is that person who sent the email. And I agree with that. Your peace and tranquility should not be interrupted by people who don't care and don't respect others. And that's exactly what's happening at that shelter. It's been going on for decades. Now, people who are homeless, they do need a bed to sleep in, but they cannot interfere with the peace and tranquility of other people. And Andy, did you find out anything on that email that I asked you to investigate? Or?
Mr. Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I did speak with one of the board members of the shelter. She informed me that they're aware of the complaints that have been lodged over the recent months, and I guess going back quite a ways beyond just recent times, and that the board was working on that. The executive director was working on a solution to that. She couldn't tell me what that solution was going to entail. I don't think they had it in mind yet, but I think that it would certainly be in the city's interest to have the manager meet with them and turn up the heat a little bit more.
Just to close, no one is exempt from the law. Everyone has to obey the law. And that doesn't give certain people the right to violate the law. And drinking in the public is against the law. And it has to be addressed because it's gone on. This city is very compassionate. It has opened its arms to many people. And we cannot continue to be a doormat, especially in that neighborhood that we're going to try to invest an awful lot of money in. And they have to respect the law and not violate the law. And if they don't want to obey the law, then we're going to have to take the matter into our hands.
Thank you. Councilor Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support this motion wholeheartedly. This is something that has been going on for as long as I've sat on this council. Many years back, There was a great effort put into relocating the shelter to a place that wasn't going to be as detrimental as it is. And that failed. And now I understand the shelter owns at least the building that they're in. And so one would guess they're there to stay. There was a lot of hope that when the renovations were done and, you know, there was going to be an effort to run this in a professional way and not be the burden on the neighborhood that it is. If anything, I think things have gotten worse. I think it's gone from bad to worse. We have an outdoor arena behind this building that is, for all intents and purposes, a magnet for everything you don't want in a neighborhood. You have people drinking in public, reports of drug dealing in open-air markets. You have people screaming obscenities, and this isn't, we're not making it up. We have complaints, and we've been getting these complaints for a long time, and this is going unchecked. Now, this is complete and utter nonsense to think that we owe to homeless people the right to break our laws. You know, people going to any of the establishments on Middlesex Street don't have a right to go out and break the law and disturb the peace and deal drugs or drink in public or scream and yell as they choose. And it has been serious for years. And the city has allowed it to continue. We have tried on and off to interact with the shelter, interact with the people there, and it's time again to do that. But you know, maybe the solution is you can't have a courtyard that is a magnet for illegal activity. You can't have a courtyard that's going to disturb the peace morning, noon, and night of a neighborhood. Nobody could do this stuff in any of the neighborhoods. So why is this being allowed to continue? You know, so there are many ways to run a shelter and to provide the needed services. But that doesn't mean it should be a cancer of a neighborhood or cancer in a neighborhood. You know, the other thing that concerns me greatly is, and I've said this before, and we just dealt with it recently in the Economic Development Subcommittee, is the amount of money we are investing in that neighborhood. Now, make no mistake, I'm not making these comments simply because we're investing hundreds of millions of dollars down there. It shouldn't happen anywhere. It shouldn't be allowed to happen at all. But we're kidding ourselves, absolutely kidding ourselves, if we think that we're going to have successful economic development in that neighborhood as long as there is this cancer there that is not being dealt with appropriately, as long as people are allowed to do whatever they darn well please. And it is a magnet. This isn't servicing people just from here or people in need. It draws people, from what I've heard, and I've spoken to many business owners in that neighborhood. This is a draw from all over the place. People who aren't even connected to that shelter come to that area for a whole bunch of nefarious reasons, and it's a real problem. And you know, unfortunately, I think it does go to the management of the shelter. They do have to deal with this. I think the board does have to understand how big a problem this is for the city. And so I think it's totally appropriate to begin this dialogue, and let's get some real long-term solutions. We heard Karen Bell say this has been going on for years, and people have tried to hang in, and it's unfair to always just throw a Band-Aid approach to it. Now, we want to transform a neighborhood. Well, make no mistake, don't overlook the biggest problem you have facing you right in the eye. The other thing, and if my colleagues would allow, I was going to file a motion to the issue of the garage and leases is at the Economic Development Subcommittee. We had a report, but based on conversations and so forth that I've heard since that meeting, if people have no objection, I would like to refer back to the Economic Development Subcommittee discussion to set parameters and criteria for those types of leases. We did get a report, but we really didn't set any criteria, and I think it's important. I think it's important for the council to weigh in on what it wants to see down there in the garage. In other words, do we want to see leases sooner rather than later, or would we rather wait for quality tenant and so forth? And I think, maybe our discussion didn't go far enough. So if there's no objection, I'll just refer that matter for further discussion to economic development. And again, I don't want to mix the message here. I think the message And the point of the motion is absolutely critical at this time.
Okay.
So I'd move that.
So why don't we, so first to refer the issue of the leases back to the
Back to
Council Economic
Economic
Development Subcommittee, moved by Councilor Donahue, second by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor of that motion say aye. Any opposed? That motion is approved. On this matter, we're still discussing Councilor Elliott's motion about the shelter. Councilor Armin Mercier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First of all, the motion is very timely. All of the investment that the city and the private sector is considering putting into that neighborhood will be for naught if this continues the way it is. My first bottom line is it shouldn't even be there. I would hope that the dialogue we have with the people who run it and own it can be successful enough to recognize how they must operate that shelter. And if that doesn't work, our investment isn't going to work. We're all spinning our wheels if that shelter stays operating the way it operates now. I've heard from an awful lot of potential businesses that go up there, look at the area, and never come back, and they don't come back because of the condition that's existing right at that shelter. So the motion is very timely, and I would hope that something comes out of it beyond just promises. I remember when we were promised that that was going to be a dry shelter. I was skeptical then. I knew damn well it wasn't going to remain a dry shelter, and it didn't remain a dry shelter too long. Something needs to be done, or we're wasting our money and our time in trying to develop that jam area in the Hamilton Canal. On the other matter, I would also like to point out that sending it to the subcommittee, the Economic Subcommittee on the leases, I'm not so much concerned about what we want there, but what we don't want there. And that we shouldn't be marketing, and I'm sure that's not happening, just for the sake of leasing. There are certain criteria that we need to establish of things that we do not want there as opposed to what we want. And so I think it's important that this goes back to the subcommittee to make that clear to the DPD and to the marketing people. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion on this motion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved and will be sent to the city manager for further action. Next motion is by Councilor Rita Mercier. The City Council requests the city manager provide relief for the businesses impacted by the road work and street closings on Chelmsford Street, as well as providing a time frame of the inconvenience.
Second.
Second by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Rita Mercier. I do think there are registered speakers on this motion, too.
Demetrius Mateos.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
Ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to you, Mrs. Mercier, for giving me the opportunity to address this issue to the council. Let's make one thing clear. We're not here to question the decisions was taken by the city council about the businesses that are coming into the city and especially into this area where we are located. This city needs the businesses most of everything else. But what happened now on this particular area, we have taken all our life savings and we debt to our family to death to put such a nice building and such a businesses, which we follow up every letter of the city for a year and a half before we even start building that building. And now we are faced with absolute nothing. We only have rented half of the building, and since this construction started 3 weeks ago, our businesses, those that they are on this site, they are suffering the most. Their businesses are down to half. I don't want to go to any particular how this is happening. You probably know there is a sign on both ends of Chelmsford Street, one near Plain Street and one at the other end of near the 99 restaurant, which says open for businesses and residents only. Let me tell you something. There is no such thing. If the bulldozer is right in the center of the road of Chelmsford Street, which has a huge hole open it, and nobody can go by, it's obvious that the police is not going to tell them to go by through the safety reasons. So therefore, our customers, everyone's concern is where and how they're going to get into this business area. So needless to say, this is devastating. Devastating to the 30-plus people that they are working in this small plaza. Imagine now, we're talking about Lowe's and talking about 150 jobs. In a small plaza alone, we employ now, half of it rented, about 30 people. So what's going to happen to these people if they have no business? Personally, myself, I cannot last any longer. I have to be honest. Because rightfully so, the assessors came in before we opened the doors. The bills are coming. We've got $35,000+ taxes alone to pay on this area where I am. So it's a great concern. It's a grave concern. I talk to these people who are they're working. Needless to say, these people, they have to go along and fix up this area as soon as possible. I don't have to tell you the dust, the noise, they start at 5:30 in the morning. I don't have to tell you the dirt that we live like, I don't want to express myself how we live right now. We can open the windows. But besides that, I wish our police chief was here tonight. Last Friday night, we had an unfortunate scene in that building. I have pictures here. 8 windows and doors were broken. And all those bulldozers, they are right across from the building. If somebody wants to take a look. They went with BB gun. Today I went to the police, I got the police report, and I asked also to speak to the superintendent. They referred to me to go to the Highlands, so I went to the Highlands. Mr. Taylor was not there. So I told them, I said, listen, would I have to take the law in my hands? We have to put a stop on this. Oh, you know, this lady who was there says, well, this is gang-related thing. I said, I don't know, I'm not a policeman. But she referred to me that this country is not the same as it was. I said, that's for sure. You know, you can't even get out of the house. Besides the problem we have with people getting in, now we have the gangs. They're breaking everything. So we have to put a stop on it. Something has to be done. And I'm appealing to you. Let's look into this. I like to sit down with the city manager and go over some things that are happening so that I can explain, so that he has an idea, that you all have an idea of what's taking place. I can be here all night and explain to you what's happening, but I mean, you know, it doesn't mean anything unless we all cooperate. People are going to the policewoman or the policeman who is in detail, and no, you can't go through. They don't even cooperate to tell them how to get into this place so that they can go and have their hair done, or have their nails done, or have a bite over at the Elliott's. Elliott's is devastating. That's all I have to tell you. I like to see a meeting with a manager to go over some things. Ladies and gentlemen, let's realize that we are citizens where we work and we live in this area. We're not like those people who took the money and left, went somewhere else, like California or Carolina, wherever. We're here, and we're here to stay. And we have to look after those small businesses, which is the core of the city. You don't see these big guys that they took the money and left. That's it, they left. We got stuck with the big bills that we pay for. All of you that you know what happened to Wing. These guys came in, they took this building for $500,000 and they sold it for $100,000. They never paid taxes to the city. I never asked anything from the city. But I just want, this time, the city to look after its citizens. And this is where we are, us, the core of the city. Thank you. And thank you, Mrs. Mercia, for bringing me here.
Thank you, Mr. Mateus.
Angelo Greff.
Not here. Okay, Councilor Rita Mercia? Oh, do we have someone here from Elliott's?
He's one of the tenants.
you give us your name and address, sir?
Yeah, Fred Holdsworth. I'm a tenant in the Stairway Plaza. I own the Liberty Tax Service, and we're trying to run a tax school right now, preparing for tax season, and it's been tough. I'm not going to rehash what Demetrius went through, but absolutely, it's been tough. And if this goes into tax season, I don't know what I do, because that's when we make our money. So,
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I present this motion and request that something get done to address and work with the businesses along the Chelmsford Street corridor that are affected by the infrastructure work that is being done. 2 years ago, Mr. Matthias and his son, John, spent close to $2 million to create a strip mall which houses 5 businesses and employs over 40 people. This development is within the Highland neighborhood and is a main gateway into the city. He and his son gave their all to achieve the American dream. Through their efforts, businesses were established and jobs were created. Now these people are taking a great loss because of this street closing. Let me first say that all this street work is necessary. We all know that. These businesses know that. The owner knows that. Those concerned are not against progress or the fact that they are being inconvenienced. What I intend to do from this motion is to establish a plan by which these businesses do not suffer any further. We need to sit down and discuss a way that we can admit customers who have cause to visit or patronize these established businesses. I spoke to customers last Thursday, and some were told to turn back, go elsewhere, find another area to go. I spoke to one business who only made $45 for the whole day. These businesses are losing money, and I don't want this to happen further. This city must be business-friendly in spite of the road work. We need answers to questions also. I request through this motion that the manager provide a time frame as to how long this road work will continue. Is it possible to open only half the road so that customers can pass freely? And I don't only mean customers, I mean residents that live within the neighborhood. How can we do a great job and improve the road work, at the same time minimize the hardship that these businesses will endure? These are businesses that took a chance in Lowell. They are spending their money now without getting an income. They asked me for help, and I'm bringing their message here before you. I want to refer this motion to the Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee and meet with Police Chief Ken LaValle, the city manager, and to discuss ways to work together so that everybody benefits with the progress of the city. I also want to know why this development project did not take part in a TIF. How does one go about getting a TIF? What qualifications do you need to have one? This man took a vacant area of land with only a set of stairs going nowhere and turned it into a neat, clean jewel, brilliantly manicured. He's paying the business taxes. He's generated businesses to come into the city, and that created jobs, and he was never offered a TIF. So who is qualified to get a TIF? I don't know what requirements there seems to be, although it seems that, is it just a small business owner that can't take part in this? These are some of the questions that I have, and I just want to refer this to the Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee. I was there, and they didn't let people pass. That's probably their job, I don't know, but we need to be business-friendly, customer-friendly, Lowell resident-friendly, that are trying to establish and generate a tax revenue base so that those residents like myself aren't burdened any further. And I don't think it's fair that they should be burdened either. Something should be worked out to help these people. That's the gist of the motion, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the acting city manager. If you could just bring my motion forward, I would appreciate it.
Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I've known Demetrius Matthias for decades. Very hardworking, good businessman. one of the pillars of the community. But what's going on up on Chester Street will be going on throughout the city. And I was, as the chairman of the Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee, I would gladly convene a meeting and see if we can come up with some workable solution. What is going on up on Chester Street is the same thing that went on University Avenue. They are installing new sewer lines. It's part of the CSO development. It's part of the $65 million bond this council passed, and that work has to be done. And the reason why they're in the middle of the street, that's where the sewer line is. But it's a good motion, and let's see if we can get the police department to work with us, work with the businesses, and when this is completed, not only will the businesses be happy, but the residents as well, because it will end the flooding, the sewerage backup, and so forth. So what's being done has to be done, but we will want to work with you to see if we can ease the burden you are under right now, okay?
Thank you, Councilman Donza.
Well, clearly, these businesses need some relief, so I would support the motion, but I think they need some quick relief, so I'd like to see the manager move on this if the motion passes, and hopefully get us back a quick report on the timeline of the project, not only to us but to the businesses, so that they understand just what impact this will have on them as far as the timeline goes. And if we can do anything to allow their customers through, we should come up with a plan to do that. So I'll support the motion.
Thank you. Anything further on this?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know this work has to be done. I know that. I'm not saying stop all work for these businesses. Is there a way we can reroute the traffic from the back door instead of on that street? Can we reroute the traffic to have them get behind the building and come into the strip mall? Is there such a way we could do that? I don't know. I'm not familiar with the back door. Can we have proper signage to say that the customers can come in this way? I don't know. Can we do something? That's all the motion
Thank you.
says.
Councilor Broderick?
Thank you. I think it's a good motion. I think we got to move on it quickly with the subcommittee, maybe the beginning of next week. I believe I'm on that one. But it might be a good idea to try and get someone from CDM, the people that are in charge of the CSO project, Cam Drescher. Maybe they can come in and explain and see what alternatives. This isn't their first project, I assume, and I'm assuming this is a problem that's occurred in other locations, other towns and cities, that maybe there is a solution, temporary, to be able to help with the flow of traffic, at least some relief for the businesses and also the citizens. To try and get in and out of your home and through your neighborhood is that can be quite a hassle. But it is going to be as we all know, it's going to be a long process, the CSO. So I think it's something that we should address, because as it moves down Stevens Street, we're going to have other businesses affected as well. So I think it's a good idea to see what we can do about it now. So obviously I'm going to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Mr. Mayor, I want to convene a meeting as soon as possible. So would Monday evening at 5 o'clock in the council chambers, that be okay with you, Councilor Mercia? Councilor Broderick?
Yeah, that's fine.
Mr.
Fine
Clerk,
with me.
5 o'clock?
Next Monday?
And Mr. Manager, if we could have members of the police department or representatives of the police department here along with Manager Lynch and people from DPD or traffic, whatever. And I just want to say one thing. Baltzar Construction received rave reviews in Pawtucket. They were excellent. And they ripped up University Avenue, Bodwell Street, White Street, Drake, and the residents and the businesses said they're fantastic. So we're going to see if we can work with them and make sure that this job is done in an expedient way, and so the businesses aren't affected. But it has to be done. It has to be done.
So, Mr. Mayor, we're saying, for point of clarification, Monday, the 15th at 5 o'clock. Do you hear that? Right here in the mayor's reception, city council chambers.
Okay.
Right here.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming down. We'll see what we can do to get you some help. Okay, the next motion is by Councilor Broderick. Request the City Council, in accordance with contract with the City Auditor, begin the performance review process. Second by Councilor Mendonça. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you. This is obviously a review, but I think it's more important. I filed the motion back in, I don't know if it was February or March, to establish, pursuant to the contract, some realistic goals in what we expect from the auditor. In moving forward, we had some issues prior to the new auditor, and I think that we wanted to set some goals and objectives so that everybody understood what was expected, what we would be able to receive and get in a timely manner. And the holdup at the time was for the DOR was doing a complete evaluation, and my understanding is that's done now, and there's been a number of changes in terms of the accounts, consolidating accounts, how the finances are handled, and some restructuring. So if I think we could call a meeting for the audit subcommittee and see if we can get that nailed down so everyone understands what we're going to be getting. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on this motion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion is by Councilor Armin Mercia. The City Council requests the City Manager have the Planning and Development Department provide a progress report on the acre plan. Second by Councilor Rita Mercia. Councilor Armin Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, as I said at the outset, I appreciate the report that we received about the jam plan and the acre plan. However, I would like to have the DPD provide the council with a separate report as it relates to an industry that we took by eminent domain with the understanding that they were going to relocate in the acre and stay in the city of Lowell. It's my understanding that not only did that happen, but they left the city of Lowell, are leaving and going out of state. And I just want to hear from the DPD, what effort did we put together to try to keep them here? Because not only did we lose a major taxpayer, but we lost an industry that employed an awful lot of people. So if we can get a report on that, I'd appreciate it.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed?
I'm assuming you know the business I'm talking about. Okay.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Councilor Mendonça. Motion is to request city ordinances be posted on the city website. Second by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Mendonça.
It's pretty straightforward motions. I just want to make the ordinances accessible to our residents. I'm hoping it's not much of an effort. It shouldn't be anything fancy. It doesn't have to be anything more than the budget, just PDF or something that could be put into the computer and then made accessible to our residents and updated maybe on an annual basis or so as the ordinances changes, not necessarily as we change them. So just asking that the residents have access to the ordinances online.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Sheehan, do you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is a project that the manager is working on. It's a project that was started a while ago, and we are still working towards that with the law department, city clerk, and the manager's office. So we'll provide a report to the council for the next meeting, but it is a project that is in progress.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor
I have a
Armin
question.
Mercia?
To the maker of the motion, are we talking about all the ordinances that we have in the books? Or do we have enough space on the site to do all the ordinances?
Well, I believe one of the things ongoing is probably a recodification.
Oh, okay.
And so when that's done, that will be posted as a single document. But
because we're assuming all the ordinances are recorded someplace in the city clerk's office or in the law office.
Yeah,
I checked I looked for one ordinance one year and nobody could find it, so good luck.
Well, this code, the codification's been going on for a while, and it is the city code of the city of Lowell. It should be available in a single document at some point. So, Councilor Elliott.
I've looked online on other communities, and they don't put the entire ordinance on, but there's usually a chart that references certain areas, and the full description isn't there, but sort of a snippet of what the ordinance is all about. So I understand the point. We probably can't put every ordinance, every word on it, but there should be some reference that people can, whether it's dogs or health code, buildings, things like that. Thank you.
Councilor Donahue.
Thank you. I mean, this has been an ongoing project for a long time. It is a huge project. Maybe we should get a report on how we're going about that, because I know at one point there was some discussion of, contracting with someone to get the job done, because it is, it's not only a big research, it takes some degree of expertise. So maybe if we can get a report on that. Oh, the solicitor may.
Sure, I can give you an update right now. It's anticipated that the recodification should be back from the printer by like December. We're right at the beginning of the year, and we had contracted out. It required, however, a lot of the code numbers were changed. The law department was then reviewing it, and there's approximately 40% of the code left to be reviewed, and it has been a tedious task that has taken longer than expected, but we're probably about 6 weeks away from sending it off to the printer, and hope to have it back by right around the first of the year.
Well, that's actually very good news. I don't know. You're surprised when it. Look forward to seeing it. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you. If I could just ask for a suspension of the rules, if my colleagues would indulge me with the suspension of the rules regarding a call I received from a constituent today, and unfortunately I'm not going to be at the meeting next Tuesday because I'm going to be out of town on bank business. So if I could just ask for suspension to bring a motion forward.
Motion is suspend for the purpose of bringing in a motion by Councilor Milanazzo, second by Councilor Rita Mercier. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The rules are suspended. Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you. The motion has to do with asking the city manager to look at the intersection of Westford and Stedman Street. Apparently there've been a rash of accidents there as of late, so if we could have someone, probably obviously the traffic engineer, take a look at Westford and Stedman Street to see if any traffic improvements can be done to that particular intersection.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On that same vein, I know Councilor Elliott, Councilor Armin Mercier, everyone has brought this motion forward, and it's Mammoth Road, and I think it's Woodridge Road. I was in Pawtucket during the weekend, people complaining about that light. They said, can you do something about that light? So every member of the council has brought that forward, and I'd like to have a study done by the traffic engineer to see if we can do something that would alleviate that frustration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Armin Mercier, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The meeting stands adjourned.